This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
JFK Assassination News and Notes Podcast with your hosts, Rob Clark and Doug Campbell.
Well, I still got a signal.
Welcome, everybody, to Quick Hits, a JFK Assassination Research and Study News and Notes Podcast, the place you go on the web for honest, real, up-to-date, modern scholarship and research. Unique in that neither host will lie to you to protect a revenue stream predicated on false and or speculative information. It's the gold standard, guys, right here. There really is no second place because, shit, guys, between the Lone Gunman Podcast, this show, and the Dallas action, it's kind of a podium sweep over here. So anybody else, y'all just racing for fourth. Welcome. With me, we have a surprise guest. But first, I want to introduce the most technologically irate man in the state of Virginia, currently, Rob Clark. Hello, my good man.
Hello, this is One Bar Bob here in Virginia, loving life.
One Bar Bob. Oh, my God. That's the funniest.
So if I should drop off today and disappear, then Bart, you're the new co-host for the Quick Hits for the day.
I'd be most delighted to do so.
Did you guys hear that?
You sounded. We love you, Bart.
Welcome
to the show, buddy.
Thank you. And all the love in the world in return to you too.
Hey, dude, anybody that listens to podcasts like this on any kind of regular basis, you guys recognize that voice. That is our dear friend from the jolly old UK, researcher emeritus, Mr. Bart Kamp. Welcome, brother. Emeritus.
Thank you. Glad to be there.
Hell yeah, man.
Lugger of many bags and documents, Bart Kamp.
Yeah, soon enough, we're going back at it, actually. So,
everywhere Bart goes, he's got a big fat sack he's toting. Absolutely. Oh, man.
Excuse me.
Guys, you know what? There was big news, big news in the JFK assassination research community this week. And you know what? As soon as I can find the correct page of my notes, I will tell everybody about it. Hang on. Where'd it go? Right here. Here, there was a lawsuit, guys. Big lawsuit. The Mary Farrell Foundation. And everybody that studies this stuff knows who the Mary Farrell Foundation is. Filed a lawsuit against President Joseph R. Biden and the National Archives and Records Administration just a couple of days ago on October the 19th. You guys, Bart, Rob, you guys have obviously heard about this.
Yes.
Maybe we lost Rob.
I did.
Bart did. And wherever Rob is right now, One Bar Bob, he heard about it too. But guys, check this out. I was fortunate enough.
Yeah. One Bar Bob, heard about it, yes.
Well, guess what? I was fortunate enough yesterday to be able to sit down with the co-lead counsel representing the Mary Farrell Foundation, and he's also the filing attorney of record on this lawsuit that seeks to compel the United States government to adhere to the law in regards to the 1992 JFK Records Act. Guys, I sat down with Bill, and we talked for a few minutes about this. He was gracious enough to give me a few minutes of his time. Guys, I think we need to dive in right into this and hear what Bill had to say, because this is big news. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in a way it is, yeah.
Well, I think so.
I heard they're going to settle it on Judge Judy.
You heard Judge Judy, really? I heard it was Judge Joe Brown. But I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Well,
listen,
either one would be entertaining.
This is
Judge Judy would definitely be entertaining.
You know what I think is important about this lawsuit, and you'll hear me and Bill get into this, but the degree to which they have not adhered to the law with the documents that already have released status. And most of this is trying to get them to do what the fuck they were supposed to do to begin with this information. But anyway, like I say, I sat down with Bill yesterday for a special segment for you guys. This is Bill Simpich. Oh, everybody knows who Bill is. What a guy. Here we go. And as you just heard me discuss with Rob, the Mary Farrell Foundation filed suit this past Wednesday against President Biden and NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, guys, in an attempt to compel compliance to the JFK Assassinations Records Collection Act of 1992. Joining us today on Quick Hits, we are grateful to have one of the co-lead counsels for the Mary Farrell Foundation to spread the word about this legal action that is not only on behalf of the research community, but all Americans. He is, in fact, the filing counsel on this litigation, guys. He is also a friend of the show, a friend of mine, a fellow student of history, and a political assassinations researcher / analyst himself. And if you pay attention to these podcasts, you'll hear me reference his work State Secret on the air somewhere between 20 and 100 times per year, usually. Mr. Bill Simpich, welcome, sir, to Quick Hits.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Doug.
So we had a monumental filing, you guys, as we stated previous. Now, here's the thing. Now, the next deadline for the documents release is, I believe, December 15th. That's correct, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's some in the community that have said, well, what's the purpose of the suit now? But there are a lot of reasons behind it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the reason is to try to preempt another memo that kicks the can down the road, but also what you guys are doing is trying to force compliance to the 1992 law regarding files and documents that already have a released date, and plus other things that weren't found, right?
Absolutely. We want to get on the radar, get into the discussion, and just put their feet to the fire.
I was amazed at some of the stuff that they were supposed to be doing, but were not doing. In regard to different things like the continued withholding of information in files that should be released. Am I right? 14,000 plus documents that still have the redactions.
Right, and the redactions are the big headache in many ways, because you don't know what's important and what's not. See, the amount of time wasted reading these redacted documents is ridiculous.
And according to the suit, what we have here as far as like regarding adhering to the requirements in the 1992 law is just gross negligence. I mean, there's instance after instance, right?
Well, since 99, when the board disbanded, they didn't really do anything on this case for 14, 15 years. And they were given a 25-year period to get these documents right, and they simply didn't do it. And now they're 5 years late, and Biden's last, excuse is, COVID. I called it dog ate my homework.
same thing, right?
It's insulting, so there's no reason for us to take it like this. There's so many things wrong with the way they've compiled these documents, as well as the redactions, as well as the inadequate searches, and we want all these things fixed.
Yeah, I had a question about that. Search requests, ARRB search requests. Now, according to the 1992 law, when the ARRB expired, were NARA to continue for searching for this material that was requested? Explain that to me.
Yeah, well, there's two different aspects. One is there were outstanding requests. There was a number of sets of several agencies never finished responding to the requests, and the ARB had questions hanging fire that were never responded to. ONI, the Naval Intelligence Branch, refused to use the JFK Act at all. They said, we'll use another executive order for our analysis. And the reason that's important is because the JFK Act has a very strong definition of what it takes to hold it back. It says you got to show clear and convincing evidence, not just reasonableness. And you can't just wave the national security wand. You've got to come up with specific examples for every document what the national security damage is. And even now, so there's that.
Well, also, according to the suit, to the litigation you guys filed, the JFK Act also makes it very specific that it makes a point to note that no other law can supersede the guidelines laid down in the JFK Records Act when it comes to declassification. Only the JFK Records Act applies. So if O&I says...
this is what's so amazing. This is one of the things I wanted to tell you, is this means that we can get into the prosecutor's work product. When they're usually you can't get a hold of what's called pre-deliberative decisions when the prosecutors are writing their client.
Yeah.
Nobody can read my stuff when I'm writing my client, but since they're government workers, they're not allowed to hide this stuff when it comes to the JFK Act material. And we're making them cough up all this stuff. It's amazing. And even at Mary Farrell, you can see with your own eyes the CIA communicating with its lawyers and saying, you know what, we don't have this exception and we don't have that exception. We got problems because we don't have any exceptions to this act. This act is very strong.
The people who wrote this really knew what they were doing. What the hell are we going to do to get around it? In other words,
really mad after seeing the JFK movie. That's right. And that's what happened in 1992.
Yeah, very mad. But I'm looking at this, and I see what you're saying here. I want to read now from, I guess this is item 41. Item 41 in your suit. In deciding if an assassination record may be postponed beyond the statutory October 26, 2017 deadline, the act imposes a ministerial non-discretionary duty on the president to apply the postponement standards of Section 6. But they didn't do that at all. Instead of, he just reasonably anticipated that continued postponement would no longer. Oh, I'm reading in the wrong part now. The phrase "strongest possible reasons" is not one of the statutory criteria. That's what the Biden administration said. They used the term "strongest possible reasons," and according to your brief, the phrase "strongest possible reasons" is not one of the statutory criteria for certifying postponement, as set forth.
I should hope not. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. No. It goes back to those meetings you were talking about in the other documents. We'll write strongest possible reasons on there and send it back. Maybe that'll work, right?
No, we've got a solid case. You don't know what's going to happen in the courts, but at the end of the day, if we can keep educating people and keep people fired up and writing their Congress people and using every angle they got, we're going to keep making progress in this case.
And another thing, guys, is that you need to go and plunk down the money for a membership to the Mary Farrell Foundation. Join, guys. Donate to this organization. Don't they, Bill? They need to.
Well, it's a wonderful group.
Yeah.
If you're into research, if you're into history, if you're into the story, you're going to be totally engaged, like people like Doug and I are. It's fascinating stuff.
So what is I understand they have 60 days to respond, the administration
so we'll get a bounce from them in late December. They'll probably be they might my intention or expectation, that's what I was looking for, is that they'll file a motion to throw us out of court. And they'll say that you don't, have what's called standing to bring this lawsuit. You're, a private foundation, private citizens, and we feel we've got a better shot than we would ordinarily have because Mary Farrell is uniquely qualified to bring this action. The National Archives actually refers people on its website to Mary Farrell if they want.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we're, the foundation is accepted as an asset within the archives community. And so the courts don't like it when somebody who's not prepared to argue a case. But Mary Farrell's done its homework, but more importantly, it's got what's called a real injury in the zone of interests of information access and dissemination, which is kind of what you need. You need a good injury or you can't stay in court. And we think we've got that injury because of what Mary Farrell does.
And by injury, you mean that how can I put this? Tell me if I'm wrong, but their failure to follow the letter of the 1992 law impedes the mission statement of Mary Farrell when it comes to educating people, making our history available to people. Like, that's the mission statement of Mary Farrell. Not,
exactly.
Yeah.
You nailed it. That's what I would say in court.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Hell, fly me out there, man.
The mission statement. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the mission is to make available of all of us, in a way, it is to make available our history, our classified history, new discoveries, and until all these documents are declassified, that's just not going to happen. We're not going to know. And
now, here's one thing for you,
man,
Doug, that you might not know. The last time around when Biden made his statement, one of the things he said, which was very exciting, is he said in 2 years, we're going to try to get all these documents online, all the documents. Mary Farrell's only got about, 15, 20% of the collection online.
That's amazing.
So when you think about it in the real world, this digitization project is more important than our lawsuit in some ways in terms of getting the information out, because what good is the information if it's sitting there in the dark in a stack? Nobody can see it. Nobody can download it.
Exactly.
You got the other 80% online. This will be a sea change.
And you're talking about the 80% that's already been quote unquote released or cleared to be
right,
released,
but sitting there on the stacks, in a cold, dark room.
No, not even any sort of public access to the actual hard paper either.
Public access means that you have to write and ask for it, or you have to show up in the archives after they pat you down.
Oh wow,
and put you on a TV monitor.
Oof,
so
we don't want that.
It's a sea change. It's a real sea change, and I hope they do it. But one of the things that concerns us in the last 10 months, of this 24-month project, we don't see them lifting a finger. And the problem, I think, at the end of the day, Doug, is they don't have any money.
Well, they do.
And they don't have any leadership right now. They're in between archivists. They're choosing a new one right now.
I didn't know that. So
yeah. They just had confirmation hearings for this woman the other week. So it'll probably happen. We don't see Biden and the archives as our enemy, quote unquote, in this thing. We see them as unutilized, period. They're on the bench. We need them off the bench. We need them in the game.
You're trying to motivate them to do what they're required by law to do.
That's right. So we're trying to, poke them.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, poke them awake. Absolutely. And I'm struck by the amount of work and what you guys called, and I wrote it down. What's the phrase? I've got it in here somewhere. Ministerial duties required by law.
Oh, yeah, we had fun with that. Ministerial, non-discretionary duties.
Yes, here it is. Not performing their mandated by law, non-discretionary ministerial duties, which means the things that they were required to do with information that has already been released, quote unquote, that just hasn't. Like getting them scanned, like removing the redactions, like finding the attachments that are allegedly supposed to go with these files that aren't with these files. There's a lot of that.
A lot of that. I mean, it's so frustrating to read a document and say, okay, here's the attachment. The attachment's not there. That happens all the time. And so what we're saying to these government people is, sure, you've got discretion and judgment calls you've got to make. We're not talking about your judgment calls. We're talking about the plain, simple things that are mandated in the law.
Yeah.
Scan it.
There you go. Scan it and send it to Mary Farrell.
Right.
One of the things I did not know this. I did not know they existed, and I did not know that they're still in the physical condition where somebody could listen to them. But I want to read, if I could, for the listeners, part of your litigation, part of the filing. And it concerns New Orleans Mafia Don Carlos Marcello, Bill, if I may. You write in your filing that in the late 70s, the FBI recorded approximately 8 months of electronic surveillance on Carlos Marcello, pursuant to 18 U.S. Code 2501, with the assistance of the United States Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New Orleans. Basically, 8 months, they bugged Carlos Marcello's prison cell, right? And apparently he confesses in these tapes to his cellmate that he was involved in the JFK assassination. Guys, these exist, and they are still classified top secret to this day. We can't listen to them.
No, it's outrageous. And, Marcello, was an older man at that point. He might have been bragging. He might be stolen valor. We don't know.
Yeah.
But we ought to be able to listen to him and decide for ourselves. And that's what's outrageous. And that this case, as everybody knows, is studded with this kind of thing. And we have to push back. Very simple.
And you know what? Thank goodness. Thank God for you and Larry and everybody involved in this thing. There were three other attorneys, Mr. Adamczyk. Am I pronouncing that right?
That's right.
And Mr. Eiler, and I believe the third one was that Mr. McCarthy. Losing my notes. That's right. Now. Yeah. That were also heavily involved and did a lot of work on this with you, and we definitely want to recognize them as well.
Everybody's done a lot of work, and they should all get their kudos. And the Mary Farrell team as well. They've put a lot of time into it since they agreed to dive in. So, and hopefully more people will help us, push this thing across the finish line.
Well, anything we can do over here to get the word out, Mr. Bill, we are all in here at Quick Hits and Drop D Podcast Productions. I would invite you, sir, I'd like to invite you now. Anytime there's an update on this legal proceeding and you need to get the word out, just hit me up, dude, and we will put you on for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. And that writing project I told you I was going to work on 2 years ago that I haven't. First, let me apologize profusely in front of the entire world right now, but no. I haven't forgot it.
No. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and we're working people. We all have limited time.
Hey, you know what? I did get about 4 pages down, and I like it pretty good. I need to go ahead and send that to you so you can see what you think, man.
Well, that would be great. It would be wonderful to tie together this pre-63 line of questioning, if you will.
Guys, me and Bill have been knocking around some ideas based on some declassified documents for a couple of years, and eventually we'll get our thoughts down, and you guys will see what we're talking about. Right now it's top secret, though.
Oh, top secret, but you'll enjoy it.
They'll enjoy it. Right now it's classified. All right. Mr. Bill, I'll let you. I know you are so busy and you want to drink some coffee and clear your head. Quit talking to me because I'm talking crazy and in circles.
I'm doing good.
Dude, thank you so much, Mr. Simpich. Guys, that was Bill Simpich on this new lawsuit, the Mary Farrell Foundation versus President Joe Biden and the National Archives and Records Administration. We will keep you updated on any developments with this lawsuit right here. Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Have a good one. Take care.
Back to you, Rob.
One Bar Bob here. Well, thank you, Doug, for conducting that interview that I would have been a part of had he been here on time. But yes, thank you.
Hey, he was only 6 minutes late. Now that's my fault because I actually had you on Skype. This is what happened, Bart. We were on Skype and we were sitting around and Mr. Bill was getting ready. He was logging on and I couldn't get him and I told Rob, I said, all right, well, let's jump off and then Rob had to go. He had something to do and then immediately. But hey, thank you, Bill, for again for granting us a few minutes of your time to let us know about all that. So, guys, thoughts?
I think it's a good thing what Bill Simpich and Larry Schnapp have been doing, but as much as I admire it and really think it's a good thing, he did make a mention of the older records. First of all, and I've mentioned this before, I just don't understand why no one has actually been chasing the older records that were released in the late 90s, the second half of the 90s, and never were digitized and still are not digitized as such. And like Bill Simpich said, you have to go to the archives to go and get them. This is what makes the Blunt archive so unique, because Malcolm was there and Malcolm photocopied a ton of them. And even overall in the collection, there are thousands of pages in the Blunt collection which aren't available online at all.
Yeah.
They're only online because I scanned them in and basically released them as such.
Well, that's part of it. The part of the lawsuit is there's like all the shit that they should have done with the other stuff from say 98 on.
Yeah, I mean, Larry did a talk at the beginning of this month on the 1st of October for the Dealey Plaza UK in Canterbury on our seminar.
Yeah,
and that was really good. And in the end, Malcolm joined the discussion a little bit and came to the front of the room, the auditorium, and had a quick chat with Larry, and basically pointed out that there is something that is called, it's like a finder's aid of HSCA records, but this finder's aid is largely redacted, and which is, of course, is a crime, of course, because it's only a finder's aid. But obviously, if you would have that unredacted, then of course you would see what else is available.
So let me get this correct.
All these records.
So there is actually something meant to help people looking at these files identify and find these files.
Yeah.
But they classified the thing to help people looking for files top secret, so you can't use it to look at files.
I know. And so basically, Malcolm made Larry aware of this, and I think that Larry is also trying to get hold of that in an unredacted form, which would be absolutely vital. Because to me, the ARB stuff is interesting, and especially if you are into certain subjects. But I think the HSCA is a lot more important from my point of view. Because they talk to a lot more people than originally thought, and there's never been like some sort of a finder's aid available as such. So if that were to be unredacted and be able to be released, then that would be a really good thing. It's a very important, crucial document as such to help you find these things. I've got something else that I'm going to look at, and also is basically filled to the brim with jewels and gold, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not going to tell anyone what it is, but I'm no, because before I know, oh yeah, I found it, yeah. So I'm going after that. That is my main concern. The thing is, like, I've just been too busy with my papers, and I'm going to online order things as such. I'll be in the back of the queue. And COVID this and COVID that, that excuse will be run for years to come. But I'm gonna just set I don't know how many emails up to basically hit them and say I want this document. I've got the RIF number for that document, etc., and basically going for them. And that's what a lot of people should do. I just don't understand why people aren't going after the documentation, because that's, it's time for some criticism as well. We've got some good listeners here, but we also have people that absolutely bugger all about trying to get these documents out of the archive. So I bet you there's certain people that live really close to Washington that could easily go down there. And I know it's really frustrating. I've heard the horror stories, this, that, and the other. But
what are you trying to say, Bart?
But you can easily put these things on back order, because you don't have to wait for them. You can back order them as well.
I hear One Bar Bob is in that area.
Yeah, One Bar Bob.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, in a way, it's really good that we're chasing and get these records back. I find, by the way, I don't know if it's 14,000 pages, because according to Joe Bax, who's probably the only person who really keeps track of all the RIF numbers and has got a whole spreadsheet filled with them, He said to me about a year ago that up to half of the documents haven't been released. It was that bad.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that even Bill pointed out is that they like have release status. I think there are a lot of documents that have release status, but there's no way for us to access them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have the numbers, then you could order them, and they will have to photocopy them or scan them in for you. And I think, if I'm not incorrect, it's you can order up to 50 or 100 pages for free. So, there's plenty of opportunity basically to do this, and it needs a mass effort of people to say, you know what, I'm going to order this, I'm going to order that. Instead of that, you've got people on the education forum just waffling on till the cows come home, talking about all kinds of insignificant crap.
Oh my God! Oh my God! See that? It's suspended animation, dude. Research stopped in 1992.
It's just that some of these people need to get their finger out and actually do something, and just start ordering and go, hey, I was looking for the Moran Shield and I came across this. Boom. Share it. Because that's the thing. The only new stuff will come from the documentation. Everything else has already been quacked about till the cows come home.
Amen. So dude, you're preaching to the choir here, isn't he, Rob?
Well, yeah, maybe
that's
to
right.
you guys, but the people that are basically have an interest in this, stop reading all these stupid books, okay, and start spending time on basically getting the documentation out and spread it, because that's how you get new information forward. Next year is the 60th, okay?
Yeah.
Who has presented actually any new research in the last year or so? I mean, you can count them. I mean, Newman's got a book out.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a book, which will be out hopefully in about 6 to 8 months, regarding my work. But other than that, who else is going to just do? And it's going to be the 60th. And it's going to be like the last ever opportunity and time to basically get some sort of traction in this case. I mean, the documentary as well, as good as it was, but did it get any traction? I mean, it gets a lot of viewers, but does it get any traction?
I know this is going to sound like I'm blowing sunshine up our own tailpipes here, but you know what? There's a lot of new shit here and on the Lone Gunman and on the Dallas action. Documents that people just aren't going to read anywhere else. Your work. Dude, every time Bart Kamp shows up on a YouTube show or in a Zoom meeting or at a conference or on a podcast, people learn shit that they didn't know before. And that, and that's to your credit as well. I mean, there are a few people that are doing that. I'm not saying it's just us, but it is out there, man. But there's a lot of shit. See, you and I were talking about this earlier in some text messages, and I bet Rob will agree. We're just blocking Rob right out of this conversation, aren't we? I'm so sorry, Rob.
Good.
We're just...
It's all right. I only have one fucking bar anyway. Go ahead.
One bar Bob.
Guys, Rob is not in he's not in a good place today. But we're about to shut up and let him enlighten us on some new research, like we were talking about. But I was saying that before, man. There's a swath of well-known researchers or known, I don't know what you want to call it, but they stop. The JFK Records Act was in 92, right? And everything
30 years ago.
Yeah, started kicking loose around 98. Well, with new information. And there's a large swath of established names in the research community whose fucking research stops in 1990. They're not aware of shit that we've learned from like Bart says, the documents and the documents as they're being released. It's like they're not even aware of that. And it just retreading the same old shit, And, but there are people doing, and the people doing the real forward-moving research are people that you're not going to hear so much about, the David Boylans of the world, people like that, and Bart Kamp, and
yeah. David Boylan does a good work together with Larry Hancock, I've got to say. They're doing good stuff.
Man, that guy, he sends me all kinds of stuff. I've been calling him the East Coast bureau chief of the Dallas action for a couple of years now. But anyway, here's one thing I wanted to pass along to you guys. Here's how the media treats things. Rob, you're going to love this. We were talking about, Bill and I, that there are something like 80 hours of tape recordings made by a bug in New Orleans mob boss Carlos Marcello's prison cell, right? And these are still classified top secret on the grounds of national security. Carlos Marcello. Now, the day this lawsuit broke, NBC News did a story on it, and they were pretty fair. I'll say that overall. But listen to this paragraph about Carlos Marcello, okay? From the NBC story, it says, in another instance, the lawsuit asks the court to compel the public release of taped recordings of a man named Carlos Marcello, who allegedly told a cellmate that he was involved in the JFK assassination. Transcripts of the recordings exist, but the Foundation wants to hear the recordings to fully evaluate the veracity and significance of these conversations. Marcello died in 1993. What's missing from that paragraph?
That Bobby Kennedy threw him out of the country. I don't know. You tell us.
Well, that's just one thing, Rob. Right, guys? Right, Rob? Of a man named Carlos Marcello who died in 1993. There's no mention of the fact that he was the most fucking powerful mafia boss from New Orleans, the entire Gulf Coast. Absolutely no mention of that. It blows my mind.
He was just a simple tomato salesman, that's all.
Maybe they're taking the Hoover line. But like what Bart said, there's no mention that Bobby Kennedy put this fucking guy on an airplane with nothing but the clothes on his back and dropped him in the middle of the jungle. And he just happened to be the Mafia Don. And Bobby Kennedy dropped his ass in the jungle with nothing.
I got to tell you something.
That
It's
would rate a
also
mention.
NBC.
I'm just saying. I don't think
that's a big thing, but I've got a little thing that's a little bigger because NBC made mention of what Bill Simpich and Larry Schnepp attempted to do with this lawsuit. They made mention of that. And I thought the irony, we are looking for the films from NBC regarding Prayer Man, okay? And here we got NBC going, oh, there's two men who's suing the government for the records release. And I thought, yeah, you could talk. Go into your dusty old basement and fish out those two films from your archives and show them to us at a high resolution. Then we'll talk. This is the same company that makes mention of one thing but forgets about the other. I thought, yeah, that's quite ironic. No?
Oh, yeah, I agree. What about you, Rob?
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you expect? It's the United States of America, for Christ's sake.
Well, at least you get access to certain things. I mean, this is one thing I've got to give the states credit for, and that's the fact that you can get access to certain things. I mean, in England, they lock everything up for 150, 200 years, just because the name of some lord might be dragged through the dirt because his great granddad basically did something stupid during the First World War. That's what we got to deal with. And the same thing on the continental Europe. You don't get access to the archives as easy as the United States does. You can pride yourself on that.
There's still some fuckery at the archives here about not releasing shit they should have been released.
Totally, I agree. But at least you can get access to certain stuff. And I have to tell you right now, the stuff that Malcolm pulled out is incredibly valuable and already makes things look bad for the assassination itself, like the so-called lone gunman thing. I mean, you know, there's plenty of material in the archives from Malcolm that basically shows that there's been major league fuckery going on with documentation and instances. In New Orleans, for instance, War in the Bruges for instance, the Cubans, all this malarkey on that, and you know what, and it is my number one subject to study, which is the Dallas police. I'm still actually surprised that no one's actually really pushed for more releases from Dallas police, although they claim to have to release everything. They haven't, and it's not at the archives. It should be somewhere in Dallas at one of the libraries or wherever, but there is more stuff. And nobody does anything about it. I just don't get it. You've got it in front of you, but you've got to go after it. And if you don't go after it, then, I know there's that many hours in a day. And even I know that, especially the amount of time I spend on just trying to publish all the stuff that comes from Malcolm's drawers. It's just unbelievable. And I just find, like I said, people are way too busy yapping about their opinion. I believe, I couldn't give a fuck, mate. Piss off. Go and find some documents. Well, the single bullet theory. Shut the fuck up. Sorry for swearing, but, it gets to me. It really does.
It's perfectly welcome on this show.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I agree, man. The Dallas police files, supposedly we've got them all. I'm sure those dirty bastards burned a bunch of them back in the 60s, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And then, what was it, a couple of years ago, a bunch of people found, or a couple of lawyers found a bunch of the Jack Ruby papers that hadn't been made available yet.
Yeah, they're now at the 6th floor museum.
Yeah.
They went from one chest of drawers to another chest of drawers.
Yeah, so, one safe to another safe.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but but no one makes an attempt to say, "Hey, listen, 6th floor museum, what have you got?" You see, I'm not interested in Jack Ruby. So, but I know there's people that are into Jack Ruby, and I was wondering, well, do you think these people have actually hit those archives and say, "Yo, man, what's going on? What's in these files? This, that, and the other?" But there are files that I'm after. I'm after files from Martha Jo Stroud, who used to work for Barefoot Sanders. And although there's a couple of letters that have been kept in the National Archives because of her correspondence with the Warren Commission, but the fact that there's only 2 letters and nothing else is really highly suspicious, since she was the contact person in between Barefoot Sanders and the Warren Commission. So there should be a ton of that stuff, because she was right in there. Then also. Malcolm gave me this document. He actually had 3 or 4 copies of it. It's called an accession ticket. And accession ticket is a so-called gold ticket that if you go to the archives and you give them that accession number, they know exactly where to go. It's not like, oh, let us have a look where that might be, this, that, and the other. It tells you exactly in what row, what floor, what this, what that, and you're supposed to be going in there and basically get the stuff. And there were several chests of drawers, basically, these are the Warren Commission interviews from Dallas, and they were sent in 1967, if I'm not mistaken, up to the archives, and they've been gone ever since. Whereas the session.
Well, I think we can all agree that this whole archive, the way they do shit there, is so fucked up, man. I mean, there's got to be a better way to catalog this shit.
Yeah, it's really
put it into sections and files and everything else, instead of having to know this number, that number, the section, the row, the box, the fucking.
You think
who put it there?
With a RIF number you could find it? You can't. You cannot find it with a RIF number. They'd have to go through their system first before they actually can go and get it as such. And also, Malcolm told me you can't have as much stuff anymore on a card as you used to. Things have changed in the last 20 years. It's more difficult. You get less boxes, less time. All these things.
Yeah, you can't even get the real shit. Like, you can't go there and get, check the rifle out or the bullets or anything else anymore.
No, unless you have a really good, pertinent reason as such. Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah.
You really have to.
They give you pictures. Here's some high-def pictures.
Yeah.
Well, gee, thanks, motherfucker.
Gee, thanks.
Because there was that, big hullabaloo. What was a couple of months ago about the, initials on shells and this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden somebody gets some high def pictures. And, oh, this scratch looks like this initial here, so he actually did handle it. But
I think it's
you really can't tell.
Yeah, I know people wanted to see Oswald's gun, and because they wanted to see the initials, and Paul Bentley's initials are on there, but you can't really see the pictures that they did take and are available. They don't show the initials of all the so-called arresting cops,
right?
You know? And so you
the
can't
chain
see
of evidence
that.
is all fucked. Yeah,
that's just terrible chain of evidence. That already by itself crucifies Lone Nutter scum, with their bullshit. Because as soon as you hit them on the chain of evidence, they go, well, Oswald shot him, No, you dickhead. He's done nothing because your chain of evidence doesn't say anything, doesn't prove anything. It proves only one thing, that the chain of evidence of the weapons is FUBAR. This rubbish. Complete rubbish.
Yeah, most of the evidence. Not just that, but yeah. Well, since I have more than one bar now here, Bart,
good.
Let me just say, because I didn't hear much of what Simpich said or what you guys said about it. So let me just add my 2 cents in here while we're waiting on Doug to get back. I think the lawsuit is long overdue, for sure. I mean, these guys should have been held accountable for this stuff many, many years ago when they started half-ass releasing this stuff, redacting things, and they should have been called to the carpet a long time ago. And I don't know exactly what this lawsuit's going to accomplish, or if it's even going to come to any kind of fruition or provide any kind of result whatsoever. Hopefully it does.
The problem is that you're dealing with agency documents, ONI documents, maybe ATF, anything that's been held behind. I mean, Malcolm did quite a lot of investigating into that, about certain Coast Guard documents and so forth. But I think everyone's got a hard-on for the Central Intelligence Agency stuff, which probably will not divulge much, other than, Morales was involved in such and such an operation, which has got nothing to do with what we're after. That's another issue. And you still won't get everything. What for me is much more important is that get this stuff digitized and get it out in the open. I mean, they've done it with the 2017, 2018, and 2020 releases. It really ought to be, the old stuff from the 90s needs to be digitized pronto and brought out as such. And yes, I do agree, those 14,000 pages, great. But I think there's a lot more that actually needs to come out as such. I don't think these boys at the archives have a real clue as to what's missing and what needs to be done as such. And you can only do that if you basically point towards them and say, here are the riffs. These are the documents that are actually all missing. That needs to be released. And there's very few people who are actually able to do that. I think Joe Bax would be able to point that out. And that's the real issue at hand.
Well, let's just start a GoFundMe page for Joe Bax to move to D.C. full time. He won't have to work anymore. He can just go to the damn archives every day and bug the shit out of them.
And
get everything we need.
I'd do that. I'd love it.
There's an idea. I mean, that's what needs to happen. I mean, because you're dealing with the government for one, a bureaucracy, for two, a fucked up system for three, and clueless people that are at the very bottom level trying to classify and find these documents and get them unredacted, release them. And it's just it's a nightmare. Like they had 25 years to do this shit and drag their feet till the very last second on most of this stuff.
Yeah.
And here we are 5 years after the deadline with no explanations, still short on documents. Things are still redacted, and this whole to preserve motives and or their MO or whatever they call it, the method of operations. I mean, nobody cares what the CIA was doing 60 years ago. I mean, it's quite obvious, how spycraft works. We've all seen the movies. We get it. Unless they're doing shit the same way that they were 60 years ago, which they're not. It doesn't matter at this point. Just release the shit. It doesn't matter what you were into. If you were trying to kill this dictator, that dictator, take over this country, steal their shit. It doesn't matter at this point. It was 60 years ago. Trust me, we've all moved on. Nobody's going to get pissed off enough to drop a bomb on us because of something we tried to do 60 years ago. Just release the damn files, and everybody will be happy, and we can all move on. Because like I said, I'm sure no smoking gun is sitting in there anywhere. All that shit's been destroyed long, long ago. It's a moot point at this point.
I agree, and that's the issue. I would like to know, because now that Bill mentioned O&I, what other organizations and what documents are actually outstanding? I mean, there should be a proper list. And, because personally, I don't give a toss about the spook stuff. I really don't give a damn. Malcolm, of course, cares everything about that. There's one thing that Malcolm taught me about a month or so ago. It's the language being used by the spooks. The spooks use euphemistic language in their documentation, whereas the feds are top-notch bureaucrats who don't really mince their words. They just basically say what's happening as such, and they write that down. Whereas a CIA document, you have to learn to read between the lines. Malcolm just taught me that. I mean, I knew of it to an extent, but the differences as such per organization is just different, and the way they word their matters. And for me, the FBI documents are most telling. I mean, when it comes to the bits on Oswald and how they did things, how they dealt with the evidence, how certain documents were basically produced as such at a specific time, which are incredibly telling for how that bureaucracy works. I think Malcolm told me there's about 300 boxes of material. He didn't manage to go through all of it. Yeah, there's 300 boxes of FBI, just FBI, 300 boxes. So I probably will start searching through them from a different end that Malcolm did before. It is my wish to go to Washington probably next year or the year after, to sit down there for a week or two and just go through a bunch of documents and collect what I need to collect as such. So and that, what, Malcolm, in the Malcolm Blunt archive, there are, inside the NARA folder, there are finder's aids that can help you looking for documents about certain specific Oswald-related subjects and so forth. But you can also read in there that certain dossiers have been destroyed because, hey, it was 25 years ago, so in 1988 we got rid of it, which is just before the ARB was put into action.
Like the Secret Service.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great example too, in the mid-90s. And
they do that to this day, though. They've got the same the same MO. Oh, you want to see these files? Oh, we got to destroy them. Same shit with their text messages.
And there's no accountability. That's the problem.
None.
There's no nobody can be held responsible for this. I mean, they were told in the mid-90s, like, do not destroy these records. Then they destroyed them. And the ARB can just play pocket pool, and that's it. And, other than that, there's no culpability or any type whatsoever. Nobody can be punished or, dragged to the courts. So,
kind of like Prouty showing up for the ARB empty-handed.
Empty-minded.
Oh. Hi, Bart.
Hi, Bart. Yeah, we got a little more on that later. We got a little more on that later, but
Do tell.
That's for my topic time. Yeah. Rob's up first this week for discussion
One
topics.
bar Bob.
Yeah. One bar Bob. Yeah, man.
Well, shall we get to it before I lose my other bar?
Absolutely.
Go on. Indulge us.
Okay.
Hey, this was such a pleasant surprise having Bart join us today, wasn't it? It's so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man.
So I got something here from the Dealey Plaza website, but from the Harrison Livingston archives, Bart, not the Malcolm Blunt archives.
No, I did that too. Uncle Harry.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you probably already know about this. I just found an interesting thing in there. I guess when Harrison Livingston was writing his, I don't know if it's first or second book, he employed the use of a private investigator named Richard Waybright Jr.
Yeah, he was a copper.
Yeah.
He was a Baltimore policeman.
Richard
He
who?
had access to a computer. And basically, this is how Livingston got all his information regarding where these doctors and medical people that were involved with the Kennedy autopsy and Parkland. Basically, he got hold of their phone numbers as such. That's what Harry did. Harry was very diligent in finding these people. Richard Waybright or Mark? Yeah, Richard Waybright. And he basically handed him all that info by using that police computer. And quite a few people were really jealous because it was a bit of an illegitimate move. He was not allowed to do that, but the guy did it anyway for him. Livingston paid him. Richard Waybright also went to Dallas for him as such to investigate and interview people. Yeah. And, Livingston, I'm going to release this stuff probably next year.
Cool.
Livingston talked to everyone. He called everyone up. He would just sit there and you can hear him breathing in between calls. And he would just call the surgeons or the medical people one after another and basically spoke to them. There are
he even called General Krulak too, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He did about 100 to 150 interviews at least. So that's all going to get released, all that audio. Really tenacious on that aspect. There are other things that I could judge him on and slag him off for, but at the same time, I'm thinking, you know what? At least you went out there and started to talk to these people as such. And, there's a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't make phone calls, don't dare to make phone calls because they're afraid of the rejection that might come to them. I'm like, well, what's the big deal? If they hang up on you, so what? Big deal. Yes, I called Donnell. I spoke Donnell about a couple of years before he died. I spoke to him. He didn't want to talk to me. And I thought, yeah, fine. And afterwards, I basically spoke to his daughter. And his daughter handed me some really good information that she found, and she handed it to me, which I then published on my website as such, which was about 5 or 6 pages of handwritten notes regarding his experiences while sitting in that car, in Kamp Car 3 and so forth. And I thought, yeah, that's really good. Of course, it made no mention of Prayer Man, this, that, and the other, because it's a blink and you'll miss it moment. But him getting out the car and, going up to behind the picket fence and so forth, and then going back to the Texas School Book Depository in front of it, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that was all there. So it was a really interesting bunch of notes that was just handed over. And I thought, yeah, cool. So, but you only get that if you get in touch with these people. I mean, I tell you what, there's many attics filled with that type of stuff. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Please do continue, Rob.
All right, yeah. So this report he sent back to Livingston in January of '91, and the subject is the results of his trip to Dallas. Okay, so he sends this letter back to Harry Livingston, and what he's trying to do, he's trying to find a guy who took pictures at the Parkland Hospital. Apparently, there were photographs taken of JFK at Parkland Hospital. And they're trying to track this guy down with Gary Shaw, and eventually, he says he spoke to a Mitchell Gordon Martin who works at JFK AIC, and upon discussing my purpose for being in Dallas, the very matter of factly he told me was for a woman. His version of the story is that Dallas County Sheriff Decker had sent a photographer from his office to photograph the body before it left Parkland. The photographer then took the film to a private film processing lab in Dallas, where it was developed, and the owner was told to make a copy for himself. Ultimately, the owner died, and now the daughter has the photographs. He says, in pursuing this lead, I met with James Ewell, the director of Dallas County Sheriff's Office of Public Information, and I told him that I was trying to verify the existence of some photographs and asked for his assistance. Incidentally, Mr. Ewell was a newspaper man in 1963, and he had been assigned to cover the arrival of the president at Love Field. He also was in Dealey Plaza after the assassination and rode with Sergeant Gerald Hill to the scene of the Tippit murder. Ewell was also present during the search of the Texas Theater and witnessed the arrest of Oswald. So it basically goes through about trying to find this woman, this daughter of the alleged photographer. They were trying to find these pictures. The woman told me that personal safety was her major concern also. I told her that once the pictures were out, she would be safe and that hiding the pictures put her in danger. We concluded the conversation at that point. He says, I discovered a woman who claims to have been a nurse at Parkland on the day of the assassination and is quoted as saying that she held the president's head. Her name does not appear in the Warren report, but she could have been missed accidentally or on purpose. Her name, Miss Grace Thomason. She now works for a realty company of some sort, and nothing else is known about her. I did not call her for fear that she may be a one-time interview, and I didn't want to waste it. It is quite possible that she was near the emergency room visiting a friend or running errands, whatever that means. But he sent him some new addresses, and he writes down here that Carol Jarnigan, who I think the reason his name stands out to me, guys, is from reading Barry Earnest's book, The Girl on the Stairs. He was a lawyer in Dallas who claimed to have seen Oswald in the Carousel Club, speaking to Jack Ruby before the assassination.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this paper, it also says that he was a lawyer who represented most of Jack Ruby's dancers. So apparently Ruby used this guy, because I'm sure the dancers couldn't afford a lawyer.
Yeah.
When they needed legal representation, you know what I'm saying? So that's interesting.
Ruby made mention of these pictures as well.
Did he?
Yes, but from what I've read, it's a bunch of bull, the whole thing about pictures being taken in. You know what? I don't think the Secret Service would have allowed anyone to take pictures. They would have smashed you and the camera straight out the window. And even though whether that guy worked for Decker or not, but from what I've read, the whole thing is hot air.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, Livingston never got the photos.
No.
So while in Dallas, he also said, I met with Henry Wade, who offered two very important items. Number one, he believes that Oswald may have had help. And number two, that Thurman Ward called him from Parkland and told him about the trouble between the Secret Service and Dr. Earl Rose. Henry Wade said that he then authorized the removal of the body from Parkland to Air Force One. So I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
Buell Frazier. I spoke to Frazier when I arrived in Dallas, and he told me that he would meet me, but that he had to check his schedule first. Very busy man. He told me that he would leave a message at the hotel as to when we can meet. And the next day, shocker, folks, I got a message that he could not meet with me. Okay. Imagine that.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Please.
This is from a document from the Livingston archives. It's not public yet, but this is a document. RIF number 124-10028-10203.
We don't give those out here.
This is about Rita and Eve McCarthy. This is a DOJ document from July 10th, 1964. Mr. Binetti described Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy as winos and stated that it had been necessary for him to ask the McCarthys to vacate the premises because of their drinking. He added that Rita McCarthy was a heavier drinker and more trouble than her husband. On July 9th, 1964, Mrs. Rita McCarthy was interviewed by Special Agent Welch and McHugh. Mrs. McCarthy appeared to be under the influence of alcohol at the time of the interview. During the interview, she was at times belligerent, incoherent, and displayed indications of possible mental instability and furnished the information set forth below. She confirmed that she formerly had resided at 2308 Foothill Boulevard, Oakland, California, and that she had written a letter to the Attorney General of the United States mentioning photographs of pieces of skull found on the street following the assassination of President Kennedy. Continuing, Mrs. McCarthy advised that she had recently accompanied her brother-in-law and sister-in-law to Dallas, Texas, where they stayed briefly at the home of one Paulette, last name unknown, a friend of her sister-in-law. She stated Paulette was then employed as a photographer at the hospital in Dallas, where President Kennedy was taken after being shot. While at Paulette's residence, she overheard Paulette tell her sister-in-law, Mrs. Iva McCarthy, that she, Paulette, had seen photographs of pieces of skull found on the street following the late president's assassination, which had been brought to the hospital where she was employed and photographed there. Mrs. Rita McCarthy could furnish no further details regarding these photographs, adding that she had not seen any of them. During the course of the interviews, Mrs. McCarthy volunteered the opinion that President Lyndon B. Johnson was responsible for the assassination of the late president. When questioned as to whether she had any facts of which to base such statements, she indicated she had none. Mrs. Eva McCarthy furnished the data set forth below on July 9th to Special Agents Welch and McHugh. She stated that she and her husband took her sister-in-law, Rita McCarthy, to Dallas, Texas with them in early June 64 for a brief visit after extracting from her a promise that she would not touch alcoholic beverages during the course of the trip. And then Mrs. McCarthy advised that while in Dallas, Texas, they resided briefly with Paulette Carruthers. She noted that Paulette Carruthers is and has for some time been employed as a photographer at the Dallas hospital where President Kennedy died. Continuing, Mrs. McCarthy stated that during the course of their visit to Dallas, Paulette advised her that she had seen photographs of the late president following his arrival at the hospital. Mrs. McCarthy stated that she could recall nothing being mentioned by Paulette about pieces of skull and could furnish no further information regarding the above-mentioned photographs, as she personally did not see any of them. Eve McCartney described her sister-in-law, Rita McCarthy, as a soft drunk and stated she is continually doing crazy things to stir things up. She noted that because of her habitual drinking, she would place little credence in any statements made by her sister-in-law, Rita McCarthy.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, that's regarding Parkland. And here, there's an ARB document from August 30, 1995, which is from Joe Freeman to Ann Buttimer. And CC is Jeremy Gunn. And it says, subject is alleged photographs of President Kennedy taken at Parkland Hospital. As we discussed, I've attached a copy of a document in which Eve McCarthy states that a friend of hers, Paulette Carruthers, a photographer at Parkland Hospital, claimed to have seen photographs taken of President Kennedy at Parkland Hospital. I don't believe I've come across a reference to photograph as opposed to x-rays from Parkland before. I've not run this by the FBI team, so you may want to check with them. So that's just a query. But other than that, there isn't much about Parkland Hospital. The only thing I did read and remember was that Earl Ruby said something along those lines as well. But no one has ever produced anything of the kind. Now, it's quite possible. I'm not saying no, but at the same time, I've got a bunch of drunk people who are involved in this, and at the same time, it's like, okay, so where's the stuff? or is there any indication?
That's right, man.
Or where are the negatives? And no, I saw, and I'm telling it to somebody else. It's hearsay at best.
You have to discount that at this point. I guess leave your mind open to the possibility, but nah, we can't count on that being real. And even if there were photographs, does it matter when it comes to finding the truth of who perpetrated the crime? Is it really that important?
Also, the Secret Service would never allow this. That's the thing. Secret Service would never allow this.
Nah, somebody would have had to have been real fucking sneaky.
Yeah.
So, all right, next up, he says he went talk to General Evan Walker. He says,
"Oh, wow.
I met with General Walker." So this would have been in 91, and Walker was old as shit. I don't know when he died, but it couldn't have been too much longer after this. He says, I met with General Walker, who I was surprised to find out is gay. He did not permit photographs to be taken or for us to record him, but he promised to correspond with me. He is virtually deaf, so phone calls are out, unless you want to talk to his, quote, maid, Daniel Schmalzer. Come on, Daniel, get the phone. God damn it.
Daniel.
Get over here and get on your knees, Daniel.
Daniel.
October 31st, 1993.
Wow. All right, so fast forward to the end of 1992. So that correspondence was from the beginning of 91. He sends Harry Livingston these notes from Dallas. It says, Harry, I now understand a number of things that were unclear to me before. I know why he was murdered. I know how the plotters rationalized his murder. I know Oswald's involvement. I know how Bannister, Ferry, and DeMoreshield and Shaw fit in. I know who authorized the murder, and I know who financed the murder. I know how the police fit in. The actual gunmen are unclear, but it is immaterial because they are surely dead. D-E-A-D.
Oh, wow.
I don't know exactly how Tippett fits in, but I know what trees to shake in order to find out.
He knows it all.
Believe me, this trip has been invaluable and has cleared up a lot.
Hey, Rob.
Screw the other. Yes.
It sounds like we need to get this guy on the podcast.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, he's got it all
Screw
figured
the
out.
other researchers. We don't need them. Then again, we don't need to antagonize them either. They could do you a lot of harm. Be careful. I think that now we may be too close for our own good. Be careful, Harry. They may not know how close we are. If they are using Mary Farrell, Harold Weisberg as monitors, then they don't know what we are up to. Let's keep it that way. This information goes two ways. Oswald is not the key like I originally thought. He is merely a pawn.
Bart's making
I will
lunch.
call you later. Yeah, I know. Mute your goddamn microphone.
Damn it, Bart.
I will call you later, or you can get me at the JFK Center. At least you're not taking a piss like Ted.
Hey, Bart, open. Can you please, Bart, if you would you please open 11 more bags of chips real quick?
Hey, we're not talking to Jim DiEugenio here. This is Bart.
It's fucking hidden.
There's a crisps.
Crisps.
Yes, crisps. So yeah, I just thought that all this was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely, always.
As far as I always love these correspondences, old school correspondence between researchers.
Hey man, you are exactly right. There's gold in the Harold Weisberg archives.
No, that's
There's
quite
no
a bit
love
of stuff, yeah.
between all these guys. There's no love lost whatsoever.
I know, but is it any different these days? Nope.
It is
the
not.
same.
No.
It's just a different way we do it now.
We could tell each
Instead of
other
like
to.
make a
More
Facebook
venom.
post.
Well,
Yeah.
also back then it was snail mail, and nowadays we can tell each other to fuck off in real time.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
All right.
At 10 times the volume compared to what
Yes,
Weisberg
sir.
did.
Well, hey, speaking of 10 times the volume, I need to hit the head, guys. What say we take just a few minutes for some important promotional considerations? What do you guys think?
Yes, take a break, sir.
All right.
God damn it. Play a song or something.
Yeah. Well, I've got promos, Rob. Promos. I've been busy over here, man. Busy.
Okay, so I can open a packet of crisps in the meantime.
You can open another packet of crisps. Yeah. Or 12. Guys.
Okay, I will.
We'll be back right after these very important announcements. Hey, Doug here. Taking a minute to give you a heads up. An all-new issue of our favorite history periodical is dropping, guys, and that is issue number 11 of Garrison, the Journal of History and Deep Politics, from Midnight Rider News Publications at midnightridernews.com. That's writer with a W. Not a passenger on a horse, but one who commits language to paper. Midnight Writer, WRITER, news.com. This all-new issue, number 11, features a ton of articles from the realm of history and deep politics, such as John Brisson introducing us to the Finders, Ed Tatro on Lyndon Johnson and the Silver Star scam, William Weston on the CIA and the Texas School Book Depository, Jefferson Morley on Greenwald, Trump, and the JFK files, and of course our friend Larry Hancock on the RFK assassination. Also, Midnight Rider News founder S.T. Patrick on the independence of Tulsi Gabbard, and much, much, much more. That's issue number 11 of Garrison, the Journal of History and Deep Politics, from Midnight Rider News Publications, available at midnightridernews.com as of October 14th. Order your copy now. Go on, get. Hey, Doug here again. And now I need to tell you about this year's premier JFK Assassination Research Conference, guys. It's on. JFK Lancer's November in Dallas conference is back. Yep. JFK Lancer presents November in Dallas virtual conference, November 18th through the 20th of 2022. Tickets can be purchased at jfklancerpublications.com. That's jfklancerpublications.com. This year, the speakers include, but are not limited to, that's because they're still adding speakers, guys, but so far we got Bill Simpich, Robert Groden, David Boylan, Mike Chesser, Johnny Cairns, Monica Wesak, Gil Jesus, Larry Schnapf, Larry Hancock, Rex Bradford, and again, more to be announced. We have 3 packages available. The student package, which is $34.99, the conference-only package, which is $64.99, and the conference and digital download capability, $119.99. That's JFK Lancer presents November in Dallas virtual conference, November 18th through the 20th of 2022. This is the one to see, guys. Make your reservations now. I mean, come on. The best and brightest of those looking at the JFK assassination from the comfort of your home. You can't beat that. JFKLancerPublications.com. That's JFKLancerPublications.com. And welcome back to Quick Hits, a JFK Assassination Research News and Notes podcast hosted by Rob Clark and yours truly, Doug Campbell. And we have a guest. That's right, Bart Kamp is still with us, guys. Hey, Bart.
That's me.
And where's Rob? I know is One Bar Bob gone, or is he still here?
One Bar Bob is hanging on. Hanging
on. Okay. Well, guys, a couple of months ago in June, long sacred CT myths were roundly and soundly and rightly rebuked, debunked, and dismissed in Quebec City by none other than Oliver Stone. During the Quebec Film Festival, Mr. Stone James DiEugenio and Paul Blue spoke to a small invitation-only audience. Have you guys seen the video of this online?
I haven't, but I know about it. But
Yeah.
At some point I will watch it.
It was an assassination panel, if you will, and it was captured on audio and video. Now, at just after the 42-minute mark in the YouTube video of this panel discussion, the subject of L. Fletcher Prouty was raised by Paul Blue, who called Prouty a key resource for researchers, and he began to espouse the whole thing, the Lansdale hypothesis by Prouty, if you will. And ladies and gentlemen, fellow students of history, at the 44:43 mark of the video, Mr. Oliver Stone demonstrated that he, apparently exclusive among the individuals on the panel, has continued to follow the work of real serious historians and scholars in the 3 decades since the release of his film JFK and the signing of the JFK Records Act. I want to play you the soundbite now. This is Mr. Stone, Oliver Stone, giving what is now, in his opinion, in the year 2022, his opinion of Fletcher Prouty's Ed Lansdale stories. Take a listen.
I've heard so much. Fletcher, of course, told us a lot about Ed. He always suspected Ed Lansdale was there at Dealey Plaza because there's a vague photograph and there's a ring on his finger, which is ONI, I believe, Office of Naval Intelligence. And Fletcher really directed a lot of venom at Lansdale, and I never understood why. And then over the years, you hear about that operation. Mongoose was a failure, complete failure. And the CIA was undermining it from the beginning because they didn't believe that Lansdale had any business in a paramilitary operation that they were organizing. That was their deal. They were hiring people like Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana. They were doing their thing in Cuba. And they resented this because Kennedy was trying to control the experiment, the assassinations and all that shit by focusing it in Mongoose. So Mongoose was the opposite of what the CIA really wanted. They wanted it to fail. So I've never been able to find anything on Lansdale relating him to the assassination. You read about him. He's a different kind of individual. He doesn't fit into the CIA operation. Doesn't fit into the picture, in my.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I'll leave it to this and open the floor to the other gentlemen on the show. In the year 2022, even Oliver Stone knows better than to believe what Fletcher Prouty said about General Ed Lansdale. And gentlemen, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this on the show before. The identification of Lansdale and Dealey Plaza at best is a vague picture of the back of somebody's head.
That's the exact word that Mr. Stone used. Vague.
Where the guys, whoever it is wearing glasses. You can't tell what kind of ring is on their finger. And he's wearing a suit, like 9,000 other people in Dealey Plaza that day. By this point, Lansdale had been retired from the Air Force for about a month. So unless he had been employed somewhat covertly by the CIA, of which there's no proof of whatsoever, then there'd be no reason for him to be in Dealey Plaza running an assassination operation, in broad daylight in Dallas, Texas, walking through the scene of the crime to get his picture taken. It just doesn't make any sense. And when you run this back with the what Prouty told the ARRB in the 90s, and we were just talking about Harrison Livingston earlier. He interviewed General Krulak, and Krulak basically said the same thing, that he didn't think it was Lansdale. And despite the fact of Prouty having a so-called letter from Krulak stating that he thought it was Lansdale in the picture. Now, to me, in my opinion, and having seen the letter, it can obviously be faked. It's a typed letter with a really shitty letterhead and a stamped signature. And Prouty it goes back to the early 70s, talking about being able to fake documents easily. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, that, he's creating this narrative for himself to seem way more important than what he is. And we see this constantly throughout the assassination lore, surrounding this whole thing for decades. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Bart.
In the Stone film, that picture is being used as like the particular person is walking past the so-called three tramps, and his hand is like waving. So in the movie, they use that photograph and interpret it as such that he is signaling to those people who are under police guard. And back in the day, in the 90s, in the few years after the film was released, all these assassinations, so-called conspiracy nutcases, basically started to jump in on that, and that it was a signal. And I'm going, no, that's Oliver Stone who did that, who basically said that, and basically adds an emotional point of view from his side, from his part on there. I never thought anything of it because, like Rob said, Rob said, listen, it's shown from behind. He could have a similar haircut, but in the 1960s, there were only two haircuts in that day, two models, and that was it. So anyone from behind with a haircut like that couldn't be compared to anyone else having such a haircut. I mean, when it comes to Oswald, same thing. So many people look like Oswald, and I'm not even talking about Larry Crayford, but what's his name? Who was there? The Newmans, right?
Yeah.
Bill Newman. If Bill Newman was running down the grassy knoll, he could have easily been mistaken for Lee Oswald.
I have never thought about that. I've never had anybody I've never noticed and never had anybody point that out to me. But he's right. All right.
Yeah, but if you're running and you have a similar haircut and you have the same hair color, how are you going to refute that? I just send you guys a document through Facebook regarding a letter from Prouty about Lansdale. It's a 7-pager, so maybe one of you can look through that quickly. You know what? It's a small story, and I think there's been way too much weight placed on that particular thing. It's the same as there's a picture of the three tramps that are actually closer to the front entrance of the records building. Yeah. And some people say that Oswald is standing in the background talking to Herbert Sawyer from the DPD. It's another thing. I don't know, man. The picture is too small, and I would need to see a serious blow up of that particular part before I would basically
the trouble with all this, Bart, is everything that Prouty alleged, was such a big part of Oliver Stone's movie with the whole Mr. X thing, and all that. And for it to all be horse shit, and for him not to even try to back any of it up in the ARB. I mean, he could have brought Krulak's letter and said, look, y'all are hustling down documents. Here you go. Here's the letter from General Krulak. The problem was General Krulak was still alive then, okay, and could refute that letter and say, I never wrote that letter. I never said that, which is what he told Livingston.
Yeah. So, he said, I don't know where he goes. I remember he says, Prouty was a great guy, good friend, and one of the best soldiers I ever met. But I don't know where in the hell he gets his crazy ideas about Ed Lansdale. Yeah. But beyond that, like what Stone said, I like that he said at the end of that quote, if you read about him, right? This means to me that Oliver Stone has read those resources, guys, that were not available to us prior to his film. We know
not available to him prior to the film.
Right. And not available to anybody. Lansdale was never CIA. He was always Defense Department. He was always Pentagon, Always. He was a Pentagon guy running Mongoose, right? The CIA's part of Mongoose, which was Task Force W, Staff D, they were attached to Mongoose working under him. And we know all this now. We know that this notion that that Dulles was his sponsor and his benefactor because he was a CIA guy in an Air Force uniform is false. Roswell Gilpatrick told the Kennedy Library for his oral interview all about how he obtained Lansdale's promotion. But the most important thing is that we know from the top down, the real CIA covert ops guys that were involved in Cuba operations, from Helms, Harvey, Morales, they all disliked and resented Lansdale. It's in reams and reams and reams of declassified documents that were declassified after the JFK Records Act, right? Harvey detested these guys, all right? These three literally committed to paper over and over and over and over again how incompetent they thought Lansdale was. So once you clear all that away, like Oliver Stone says, if you read about him and you clear all that away and you realize, okay, if I believe that there's a legit chance that David Morales, that Bill Harvey, that the CIA wing of Cuban covert ops were involved in the JFK assassination, then that totally cuts Lansdale out of the equation because he was running an op to try to kill Castro. They thought he was too damned incompetent to do it, but you're going to tell me they're going to work with him on an operation to kill Kennedy? There's no fucking way. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But even before that, all the stuff Prouty said about him being CIA, not Air Force, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. It's just like Oliver Stone says, guys, in this quote. Let me find it again. It's over here. He says, you read about him, he's a different kind of individual. He doesn't fit into the CIA operation, doesn't fit into the picture, in my opinion. All right? They resented. Lansdale was running Mongoose at the pleasure of the Kennedy brothers. They picked him to run Mongoose. You know what I mean? It's all this information we know after the fact, after the movie, after the JFK Records Act. Real scholars, the people doing real scholarship in this field, not rehashing old fucking information from the 80s over and over again and jamming it down people's throats. The people moving forward with this stuff, they understand that, right? I mean, if you don't believe me, ask Bill Simpich.
Yeah, it's clear Oliver Stone, realizes that because the whole tone of his most recent documentary, which I know was written by Eugenio, but the whole tone of it was a lot different than the movie. The movie was very Prouty-based accusations.
Yeah.
And the documentary, I mean, you had Alan Dulles in every other damn slide of the movie, but
it was
that's a Eugenio thing.
Was it not bereft of Prouty? I don't remember. I remember I sent somebody a message that like, okay, I'm halfway through part 3 and I haven't seen Prouty yet. What's going on?
Yeah.
And now I know why.
The absence, the tonal shift of the movies, you can definitely tell that Oliver Stone definitely didn't want that in the second one for a reason. And, he made it very clear in his little statement there in Quebec how he felt about Lansdale and Prouty, and I'm sure it was very uncomfortable for Lynn to sit up there and have to hear that. But hey, sorry, dude.
Hey,
people
now,
evolve.
To Eugenio's credit, he within 2 minutes he was talking about LeMay and Northwoods. He took a hard right and steered that conversation to a whole different road, just quick.
Well, yeah.
So, but look, guys, I mean, it's just that simple. if you've been like Bart, did you not just spend 20 minutes at the beginning of this show telling people how important it was to study the documents? Did you not do that? Yeah, right. The people that have been studying this information since the passage and implementation of the JFK Records Act, they know. They know that, that's just conspiracy buff fluff because they've studied the material. If you don't believe me, ask Bill Simpich, Larry Hancock, Michael Swanson, Alan Dale, Dr. John Newman, Dr. Walt Brown. Ask them guys. I have. Trust me. And I know exactly what in the hell they're going to tell you. And they're going to agree with Mr. Oliver Stone right here. I promise. So, again, to reiterate, in the year 2022, even Oliver Stone knows better than to put any stock in Fletcher Prouty's stories about Ed Lansdale. So
in Dallas.
Or involved in the plot at all. Involved in the plot at all. Here's a quote here. He says, Fletcher really directed a lot of venom at Lansdale, and I never understood why. He says the CIA were doing their thing in Cuba, and they resented Lansdale because Kennedy was trying to control the experiment, the assassinations and all that shit by focusing in Mongoose. You read about him. He's a different kind of individual. He doesn't fit into the CIA operation. Doesn't fit into the picture because he wasn't CIA. You know, I agree with Mr. Stone there, 100%. Because, again, I've read the material.
Yeah, the difference between the actual film and the documentary is massive. You know, the documentary is much more fact-based on documentation that's been dug up by a whole bunch of researchers. And,
but you know,
and compared to what was available. But it's, you know, it's obviously because the film basically made sure the creation of the ARB was made, and you know, and then also got the documents released as such. So yeah, of course, there's a massive difference between these two, but at least he was willing to learn and pick up on things. I mean, also he kept the New Orleans element out of it as well as much as we could.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
You know, that was a good thing as well because he just went, look, I've done that already, and you know, now was much more get the other researchers to come in, the medical bit much more and so forth, what really is written in those documents and what's found out about the photographs and so forth. So, yeah, I have to admit that the documentary is excellent. I thought it is the best one on this subject for me. It should have been a bit longer. I know
the newest
4
one?
hours, but it should have been 6 at least, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for sure.
I give it 8 or 9.
Yeah,
8.
It was well done.
A solid 8.
Yeah, it was well done, and I think if you've got even a little bit of an inquisitive mind, someone who's not familiar with the case, if they watch that 4-hour thing, they are going to be very interested in the case. You know, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Well, that's all I had, fellas. I'm done opining and congratulating Mr. Stone.
Well, guess what I have, Doug?
What you got?
In my hand, right here, I have proof that the Oswald, in quotes, that applied for a passport in July of 1963 was not our beloved Lee Harvey Oswald.
You have proof in your hand.
Yes.
You
right
did
here.
not, perchance, get grape jelly on that proof, did you?
No.
Okay. So this is proof in your hand that the Oswald who applied for the passport in New Orleans in 1963 was not the Lee Harvey Oswald that we all know and love.
That's right. And I'm going to explain it to you.
All right.
This was originally done by Jack White. I'm not going to take credit for this, but it's one of Jack White's many overlooked comparisons. Okay, you know, he's quite adept with his photo comparisons and things like that. Some think he was a nut job, but he did do some okay work. But this one right here is hard to deny. It's really hard to deny. So, how well Doug, do you know how to spell your mother's name?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Bart,
and it's not easy.
You know how to spell your mother's name.
Of course.
Right. We all do. Okay. But for some reason, when 1959, okay, we all know that Oswald filled out a passport request to go to Russia, okay, when he got out of the Marine Corps. And on his 1959 application, all of his information is correct. The name of his father is correct.
Yep.
His father's date of birth is correct. His mother's name is spelled correctly. His mother's date of birth is correct. Okay?
Okay.
But, so fast forward 4 years. So either Oswald really forgot all this stuff in some form or fashion, or this was not Oswald. So in 1963, July of 1963, he spelt his mother's name as Margaret, Margret.
He misspelled her name wow. But he got it right in
Margaret.
1959.
He got it right. Well, look, so it's Margaret Clavier on the 1963 application.
Right.
Okay. It's actually spelled Claverie, Claverie, because they had Lillian Moret in her Warren Commission testimony spell it. Okay.
Okay.
Now the way he wrote it on here is Clavier,
Like Clavier.
which is totally wrong. Yeah. So it's Margaret Clavier. Okay, on the second one.
So he's got the E and the R are transposed, and he's actually missing one E.
Right.
In 63.
Well, he's missing. There's an IE that should be on the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Claverie, Claverie is what it should be, and it should be Marguerite, Marguerite. Okay, so on the one in 1959, he wrote on there her correct name, Marguerite C. Oswald. And in 1963, he wrote on there that her mother's maiden name, Marguerite Clavier. Now, on his one in 1959, he wrote his father's name down correctly as Robert E. Lee Oswald. Okay?
Yeah.
On the one in 63, he wrote just Robert Lee Oswald. He forgot the E.
Huh.
On his father's birth date, okay, in 1959, he wrote, let's see, 1908, okay?
Yeah.
On the one in 1963, his father's date of birth is 1895. Now, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Oh, it gets better. So, on the one from 59, he wrote his mother's date of birth as 1909, and in 1963, her date of birth was 1907. Okay. On his one from 1963, he wrote his wife's name as Marina Prusakova. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It should be Prusakova, Prusakova. He wrote it as Prossakava. Okay. Now, how many days are in April? Does anybody know that?
30.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
30 days.
Apparently Lee Oswald in Russia got married on April the 31st, 1961.
What the fuck? Really? That's on his passport application.
Yep. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's his date of birth, or that's his marriage date, April 31st, 1961.
I have never heard this before, Rob. You're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's bad. That's real bad. That's
everything on here is fucked up.
How many years was the difference in his father's date of birth?
1908 to 1895, so 13-year difference.
13-year difference?
Yeah.
Wow. That's just somebody jotting down anything that comes to their fucking head is what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know this fucking guy's dad's birthday. Fuck, I'll write this.
No. It's the legend.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The legend. Harvey and Lee.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of discussion about Oswald being impersonated in Mexico, right?
Yeah,
I think he was. I think he was. I don't think Oswald. It's my opinion
so
that
this passport, was used to go to Mexico.
Right.
So whoever got this passport didn't know shit about. I mean, they knew some things, but they guessed at a lot of other shit that they got wrong, such as dates of birth and dates of marriage and how to even spell Maria's name right. So, and I don't even know if her date of birth is right.
Well, and his mom's name.
July 17th, 1941. I don't know if that's right or not, but it's insane.
Yeah, it is. I got something I'd like to share. I discovered this only like a couple of months back.
Yeah.
Now, you all knew the story that if Oswald defected to the Soviet Union, he basically offered to give them military secrets as such. Yeah, you know that story, that as a radar operator, he could hand them specific information.
Well, that's what
the U-2 and this, that, and the other. All this speculation.
Well, he allegedly made that proclamation when he walked into the embassy there, right?
And I'll tell you right now, that's complete and utter horse manure. And the reason being is this. I've got a document here from Malcolm Blunt's archives, which, again, isn't available online. And this is from Robert Coots, who was the head of the DOJ at that time, to Robert Blakey on March 10th, 1978. Let me just read out the whole letter. Dear Professor Blakey, your letter of February 21st, 1978 requested that this department advise the Select Committee on Assassinations whether prosecution of Lee Harvey Oswald for revealing or offering to reveal military or intelligence secrets to the Soviet Union in 1959 had ever been considered. As a result of your request, the department's file on Lee Harvey Oswald has been reviewed. The file contains no evidence that Oswald ever revealed or offered to reveal national defense information to the Soviet Union. Therefore, prosecution of him for such an offense was not considered. Boom.
I never understood why. And there it is.
It's document 117 10010 10117. That's the RIF number. So it's just one of those nuggets that isn't available online, but thanks to Malcolm, is made available as such. It's just beautiful. Yeah, stuff like that. It's like it shuts the whole debate, because the thing is, this
amen
whole
to that.
insinuation, the whole insinuation that has been by so many people in internal traffic of saying, yeah, this guy is, blah, 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 the U-2 flights, and did he bring Gary Powers down because he gave him the information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, there isn't anything like that.
Good.
So,
sweet.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, we're good. I was done.
I felt the need.
Rob.
That was a good insertion. Yes.
Back to what you were talking about there, the passport. Yeah, well, that would make sense that whoever impersonated him in Mexico City, would have to get that passport. And if you could get one using his ID in New Orleans, that would make the trail more authentic, the
right
back to him. And I don't believe, and
to my eye, I sent it to you, Doug, a picture of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like the same writing. I mean, it's close, but it doesn't look the same. It's weird.
Huh. But yeah, that's totally believable that whoever impersonated in Mexico City did that. You know, yeah, I'm hip.
Sweet.
Well, cool, guys. We had another a passing, an unfortunate passing. Let me get to my notes here. Let me get to the right spot, because this is the all the stuff that I decided not to say about that one guy. Rolando Cubella, guys, A.M. Lash. He passed away just a few months ago, back in August. I just have a couple of more notes here on my end, Rob, about that. You know, Cubella, of course, the infamous Castro Inner Circle member / CIA double agent / potential Castro assassin known by the cryptonym A.M. Lash, passed away back in August. Cubella, of course, he was the one, the double agent that was being given the syringe full of Blackleaf 40, a shell toxin concealed in an ink pen, so he could whack Fidel Castro for the CIA, and that never happened. But and that was on 11/22/63, just as President Kennedy was being assassinated in Dallas. And one other thing I wanted to pass along, guys. Chris Gallup has asked me to pass this along to everybody. He is hosting his 10th annual JFK The Continuing Inquiry Luncheon Symposium on Wednesday, November 16th of this year. Guys, it's from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Lone Star Garden at 3132 Milam Street, Fort Worth, Texas. Says here close to Oswald's gravesite. Price is $65. That includes a catered lunch, access to the speaker, and raffle tickets. Speakers, J. Gary Shaw. We're all familiar with First Generation there, the author of Cover Up. Jeff Meek, author of the I'm talking like the grandma in what is that? The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy. Sorry about that. Author
the Clumps.
Yeah, the Clumps. I was talking like the manipulation. No, it's the manipulation. Jeff Meeks, author of The Manipulation of Lee Harvey Oswald and the cover-up that followed. Chris Phipps, an actor that played JFK in a miniseries. Robert Groden. Everybody knows Robert Groden. Randy Benson, director of the movie The Searchers. And Leslie Sharp, co-author of Hank Albarelli's Coup in Dallas. And there's also going to be a screening of the new documentary Invisible Witness. You can get a hold of Mr. Gallup, CJ Gallup, CJGALLOP at yahoo.com. CJ Gallup at yahoo.com for tickets and all that good stuff. Guys, it's the Fort Worth, Texas Assassination Luncheon Symposium by Mr. Chris Gallup. Check it out. Go if you're in the area. Do go check that out. That event. All right.
Here's my question. I'd like to know your opinion on this.
Yes, sir.
Next year, it being the 60th.
Yeah.
How many of these has-beens are going to come out of the woodwork and pretend they're cutting-edge, leading investigators on this whole caboodle?
Well,
it's going to be an absolutely sickening affair of all kinds of twats.
You don't have to wait till the 60th. That shit's happening next month.
It happens every year.
Yeah, it's happening.
No, I know that, but now because it's the 60th and it's probably the last time it's going to get probably some mainstream media attention,
Well,
because it's the 59th. People will say, "Oh, we'll do it next year. Next year we'll do a big item," and then all these twits are going to come out and go, "Oh, well, I was there." And
all the books will come out, yeah.
Oh, well, and it's stuff like
come in there in his wheelchair.
Oh, dude, you always got that one guy at that one or two guys at that one conference that are guests, right? And it was like, this is Myrtle Jenkins. Her second cousin's husband was the guy on guard duty outside of Bethesda, and he saw
It's so true.
He saw the hearse come in.
I'm thinking, like, shall I go or shall I not
Yeah.
go? But I think I'll just be so annoyed by it all. that I'm just going to sit quietly in a corner, and that's just about the last thing you want to spend.
You know
your
what,
money
man?
on, just because
if you come to the United States for a conference in 2023, Bart, I'll fucking go and meet you there. I'll actually go.
we should do a quick shit show.
Oh no, I'm talking about every night.
Live from Dallas.
Do it just like me and
Oh,
Rob
my
did
God.
8 years ago. Every night we sit down and we podcast about the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, hey,
I'm
Bart,
just-
check this out.
Yeah. What's that?
So I saw a thing where on Facebook, Bill Frazier was answering questions from people, right? He said, if you got any questions, hit me up, right?
Yeah.
So I sent him a little cutout of his HSCA testimony when he was talking to Moriarty, and he's saying, I stood right there on the steps, and I knew that he hid the rifle, and I knew right then and there that I didn't want to be drug into this or something. So I sent that little blurb, right? And he actually answered me.
Really?
He said, where'd you get this? Yeah. And he wasn't answering a lot of people's questions, trust me. But he answered me. He said, where did you get that? I said, it's allegedly from your HSCA testimony, that you gave to Investigator Moriarty. Do you remember it? Or what's the context here? Never answered me back.
Wow, dude.
Of course not.
No. So, yeah, I just figured I'd throw that little tidbit in there.
So he
We got
didn't
some
know
good
his
emails if you want to get into them.
Wait, let's get back to
please.
BF here. Let's get back to BF. So
All
he
right.
didn't know his HSCA testimony was declassified and available online?
It is. The tapes. But the tapes are terrible quality. I think Dennis Morissette managed to get better copies of them.
But aren't
But I
the
think they're on
transcripts
YouTube.
the transcripts are online at historymatters.com, right?
No,
Not all
the
of them.
HSCA. Not the HSCA.
Yeah,
The
the
only
HSCA
one
transcripts.
that did. I don't think so.
Yeah, they are, man. They got a
No.
shit ton of them over there.
Yeah, but not the HSCA on Frazier. That's not there. Richard Gilbride tried to do it, and he did a terrible job because the quality was terrible as well. And it's a really crappy transcript. And I think Dennis Morissette put his tapes, because he went to the archives about, I'm guessing 4 or 5 years ago, and then got the tapes, and they are slightly of better quality, but the tapes are just terrible. I mean, I tried to transcribe some of Billy Lovelady's stuff, and it was really hard to listen to, and
It's brutal.
it's terrible. It just does your head in. I mean, I'll tell you what, I can tell you this. I'm writing an article soon on Roy Edward Lewis. Roy Edward Lewis did an interview with, what is his name? This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And it
Larry
was also
Rivera.
and it was a bad interview. And I was like, oh my God, the quality is horrible. And
They did it in the lunchtime in a restaurant or something.
Exactly.
And fucking
it was dreadful. The
shit
quality
clanging
was,
everywhere.
Oh my God. And
Hey.
also there were cuts in it and this, that, and the other. And I was like, and I was speaking with Ed Ledoux, and I said to Ed, excuse me, I said to Ed, we need to talk to Roy Lewis ourselves. So Ed called him up. We found out where he lived, and he basically called him up, and he's basically been talking to him 4 or 5 times. So I've had help transcribing, and I did one myself. And my God, is it frustrating to transcribe a tape. Mine was 25 minutes or 30 minutes of it, and the other guy, Rick Bucarelli, did about almost an hour's worth of over 2 tapes for me, which I'm really thankful for. And I'm writing an article about that. And just think about it. From Prayer Man, the 2 people closest are still alive, Frazier and Roy Lewis.
Yeah.
But they keep their cards to their chest. They don't want to give anything away. I don't blame them, you know. I mean, after all these years, you don't want. And by the way, what difference would it make? A little bit, but the thing is, why should they get the headache, you know, of coming out now after 60 years?
Well, I wish at least one of them would write this shit down and leave it for us to find before they pass on. Damn. You know, taking everything to the grave with them.
It won't change anything. So, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
to
it
me,
ain't Fraser's
Batman
book.
and Oswald.
That's for sure.
I saw the sniper. Yeah, of course he did. Okay.
Oh,
what was
boy.
it again? 2 people originally involved walked away from it. You know, he had to get other people to write the book for him because the first people found. I don't know their names, but they said.
Oh yeah, Dave Perry and Hugh Ainsworth.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Talk about the
Well,
personification of evil. Jesus.
Yeah, there you go.
I did not know Hugh Ainsworth was involved in that.
Oh yeah.
Huge anus.
You ready for emails, Rob?
Yep. Let me dig in my sack.
All right. Emails.
All right. Emails. We have a celebrity insertion in our email selection here today, Doug.
Watch where you put that thing.
We don't normally get a quasi-celebrity to email us about our show, but with links to the assassination. But we happen to have an email today.
Oh, let me guess. Ruth Buzzy. Please let it be Ruth Buzzy.
No, she's dead.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is. Sorry to piss on your parade, but yeah, she's dead as shit.
Oh, man, damn it.
We have an email from George Joannides' great nephew.
Oh, gosh, give it a rest.
What? Come on, Bart. This is for real. Hold on. It says, Dear Rob and Doug, the pandemic and getting a new car where I can listen to podcasts have been my re-entry into JFK assassination interest. Doug, I had Facebook messaged you about my mother being George Joannides' niece, but you never answered, you cocksucker. No, I inserted that last bit.
Are you sure, Rob? That. You inserted that last bit? Because homeboy was fixing to get, oh, man.
Discovering quick hits has been great for both info and entertainment. Listening to fine gentlemen made me turn to YouTube to watch your recommendations for accurate info. Since viewing YouTube videos, I have comments and a few questions. Ruth Payne is involved, no doubt. Roger Craig was a good man and dutiful policeman who was clipped by bad ones. Now for the questions. Number 1, what is your opinion of the Oswald double? Is there a Lee Oswald and a Harvey Oswald? Bart.
Oh, God. What's the answer to that? I'll tell you what, it's really simple. There was a legend. There was legend building going on about Oswald. But you can't pinpoint that because there's only certain instances. The way Armstrong stitches this all together is all with probablys and maybes and perhaps. And this, from an evidentiary point of view, is just a sack of rubble. It's
a lot of holes in that book.
I hate Harvey and Lee. It's utter bullshit.
More likely, he was impersonated at some points and times.
Yeah.
But as far as a identical twin double,
Hungarian mother and all that rubbish, give it a rest. Go away.
I'm with Bart pretty much. I mean, it's a great book and it's a great resource and it's full of. I mean, his analysis is wrong in my opinion, but the resources
are there.
Yeah, the resources he's gathered in that one spot in that book are great. I refer to it all the time. But
Malcolm Blunt worked with him. Malcolm Blunt worked with him closely for years in the late 90s before the book came out. Malcolm did a lot of documentary research for him, and it was called Project Oswald. And then all of a sudden he named it Harvey and Lee and told him, and they fell out. They fell out for a year. They didn't speak to each other for a year. You know, his name was like dumped in a thank you list. So he's one of the main guys who basically got all the documentation for him. And, he did some of the interviews together. And, I keep saying to Malcolm when I meet him, I go, Armstrong could have written the book of the 90s if he paid attention to the documentation that you had in your archive. Because I'm all my work I'm writing now, and on the papers, this, that, and the other, the majority comes from his archive. And I'm going, mate, you had gold dust, gold bars right in front of you, and you didn't use it because you wanted to follow your own pet theory. That's the problem with a lot of these guys. They just only want to follow what follows and fits in their little pet theory. It's very little, this behavior. You need to go where the evidence tells you to go. What is actually the evidence telling you? That's all I do, because I'm not a writer. I'm a non-writer at best. But I basically stitch the evidence together and go, this is what's happening. This is what's been done. And no, there was no second Marguerite, a Hungarian mum. And, come on.
Speaking of her, any credibility to Oswald's mother knowing or being involved with intelligence assets or agents when Lee was growing up?
I doubt it. Nah.
No.
Doubtful.
No.
Yeah.
No. Nine.
Any truth to Zapruder being some kind of intelligence asset sent to stand where he was to film the assassination?
Nah.
I saw a Jack White lecture on YouTube concerning massive horse assery, as Rob put it, being done to the Z film, so I won't even question it. Yeah, I don't know about Zapruder being an intelligence asset. Yep. Number
this
4.
All comes from a distant cousin from George Giannini.
Great nephew.
Great nephew.
Hey, guys, I forgot I had this. Listen.
There you go.
We could use that.
Be quicker on the button. Medical evidence and differences between Parkland and Bethesda. Anyone with a brain can see massive changes between the two. So I understand this. How and who could have access and time, if not a CIA primacy member or a high military or inside government plot from its inception? That's all for now, gentlemen. Thanks. Mark Barcelone, great nephew, George Giannini.
Why is it that always the agency does everything? Why is it that the agency gets the blame for what's happening at Bethesda
who else could have done it? Who else could have done it?
No one could, because the Secret Service was right on top of all this stuff in Dallas, right? They weren't allowing anything. And what happens in Bethesda is under the auspices of the Pentagon. I mean, you've got Uncle Curtis LeMay smoking on a fat cigar during the autopsy and being told. Doc Horn brought that forward. But, I mean, and I'm thinking, here's the thing. This is for your listeners, and this is what I learned from the documents. Now, you've got the National Security Council, you've got the special group, and you've got the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And you read these documents, and from these meetings, there's always 5 or 6 generals at least present, but there is one guy from the Central Intelligence Agency there. Had Langley been involved in the assassination as such, by itself, as a rogue group, that building would have been flattened. People would be abseiling out of helicopters and kill everyone inside that whole area there in Langley. Langley does what the Pentagon tells them to do.
That's why the Pentagon so much for saying that.
The Pentagon spends it out to the CIA. It's no different than extraordinary rendition or drone attacks and so forth. These are military matters, but they're spent out to the agency, and it's just because of responsibilities. It just gets passed on. Let them take care of it. They're in the dirty wars segment, this, that, and the other. They take care of it.
You're exactly right. What we were talking about earlier. Like Harvey, those guys in CIA were farmed out to Mongoose. They were detailed to Mongoose, which was an executive Defense Department initiative.
Yeah,
they were
and that's why we've got all these simpletons cracking all this crap on Facebook and for the CIA did it. No, they didn't. I mean, the knowledge probably comes from there. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But you're not gonna You're not going to get rid of a brilliant analytic agency, because that's what they are. It's filled with really brilliant minds, that prevent a lot of shit. They prevent a lot of shit.
Allegedly.
But instead, well, they do. They hear a lot of,
and they do a lot of shit too, though, Bart. Trust me.
They do as well, but they do it on orders. They don't do it by themselves. They do it on orders from upstairs from Washington.
And
nothing happening.
And they usually fuck it up.
That's a different debate. But the people put too much importance on the Central Intelligence Agency of being, the boogeyman and all that. It's the people in the shadow. That's where you need to look at. These generals that don't get their little toy backyard where they can put their toys out on display, like Cuba or Nam. That has got much more. That's much bigger reason to go after Kennedy as such. Because they can't have their own little war, which of course makes a lot of money. Like it does now.
Thank you, Mark, for that email. We'll move on to an email from Matt, LA Dodgers, friend of the show. He says, and we talked about this on the show, but we'll give him his due. My Washington Post subscription allows me to share access to great journalism. Check out this gift article at no cost to you. Rolando Cubella was jailed for 13 years after his former ally Fidel Castro called off a death sentence. Rolando Cubella, who plotted with CIA to kill Cuba's Castro, dies at 89. Thank you for the news article, Matt. We touched on it. Next up, we have an email from Kiyoshi7, our buddy Jeff. Hello, guys. My compliments on another great one last month. I was wondering if you watched the docuseries Tracking Oswald, and if so, what do you think of their theories?
That is a no for me.
Thing? Is that the Bob Bear thing?
I think so, Bart. I think it's that. Yeah, I think it's that Bob Bear thing.
Horrendous piece of crap.
Yeah, it's rooted in the Warren report. So not for me.
All right. Next up, hello, Rob and Doug. Hope this email finds you well. We're reaching out to you because your show, Quick Hits, a JFK assassination news and analysis program, was recommended to us by one of our beta testers as a potential fit for our platform. Hey. Heard FM is a curated podcast app that identifies the highest quality shows of the over 5 million podcasts that exist. So they wanted us to submit our show to be on Heard FM, Doug. So I did, and I haven't heard back from them yet.
Well, I think that's good news. We're expanding. Like I said before, this is the gold standard.
So this is haven't heard FM, you mean? Haven't heard from them FM.
No, it's there's no A in that. It's HERD.
Yeah, well, they did send something back October 11th. Said, like, hello, Rob. Thanks for your interest in joining the Herd. Something incredible is coming soon, and you'll be one of the very first ones to hear about it.
We better be.
In the coming weeks, we'll be updating you before everyone else and letting you know on the status of your application. Best, the Herd FM curation team. So there you go.
Rob, do not give those people. Don't give those people our podcasting American Express number, man. Don't do it.
No, never.
You know our credit limit is only $6.57. Don't fuck it up.
Next up, we got another one from Matt, LA Dodgers. X-Flame said Jack Ruby had no choice but to kill Oswald. This is from Substack.com. And it says, I've never met Napoleon, but I plan to find the time. Pretzel Logic, Steely Dan. So he sends me this article about some chick. I guess Jefferson Morley read this article. It said the story that he acted to spare Jackie Kennedy was absolutely made up and said a close friend. Gail Raven, an exotic dancer in the Southwest United States in the 60s, became friends with Jack Ruby. And it goes on to say, who says JFK witnesses can't be found? New JFK witnesses can't be found. In 1963, Gail Raven was the stage name of a precociously mature 20-year-old woman who danced on the national nightclub circuit that included the Carousel Club in Dallas. He took a shine to her, and they became fast friends. He would just eat her and stuff. After JFK facts recounted Jack Ruby's pursuit of an come on now. I received a message from a woman who identified her. God damn.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was late on the button.
I received a message from a woman who identified herself as Raven's daughter. She told me that her mother was still alive, and she confirmed that her mother and Jack Ruby were close. I asked her if her mother would share her memories of the man who killed accused assassin Lee Oswald, and she said yes. When I spoke to Gail Raven in 2013, she was close to 70 years old and living in the southern United States. She says Ruby had no choice. When I asked her to explain why he had no choice, she replied only Jack had bosses, just like everyone else. Raven said she believed he was instructed on what he needed to do, therefore he did it. When the opportunity presented itself, he went ahead and took it. She says that was absolutely made up about, sparing Jackie Kennedy to have to come back to face trial. Ruby told that story to Secret Service agent Forrest Sorrells 30 minutes after he executed Oswald. The conversation went like this, according to Sorrells. And I said these two words, Jack, why? He said, when this thing happened, referring to the assassination, that he was in a newspaper office placing an ad for his business, that when he heard about the assassination, he had canceled his ad and closed his business and had not done any business for 3 days. That he had been grieving about this thing, that on the Friday night he had gone to his synagogue and heard a eulogy on the president, that his sister had recently been operated on and that she had been hysterical. That when he saw that Mrs. Kennedy was going to have to appear for the trial, he thought to himself, why would she have to go through this ordeal for this no-good so-and-so? Ruby told his story to others. He later said his lawyer told him to say it. One college professor believes Ruby was sincere and the story is true. Not Gail Raven. That was absolutely made up. And anyway, it goes on and on. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole damn thing. But head over to jfkfacts.com to read the rest of this article by Jefferson Morley if you're interested in that kind of thing. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Or Matt. No, Matt.
Yeah,
sorry.
him too.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you gentlemen.
All right. Last email of the day. Here we go. This is from our buddy Joe Borelli.
Joe Borelli.
Hello,
hey, Joe.
gents. Yep, the only person I know that can go to paradise and sit there and do JFK research while looking out the window. Joe. Hello, gents. First of all, I wanted to thank Doug for shouting me out on the last QH saying I'm a good researcher. I'm newer at this compared to you guys and have so much respect for both of you and your approach to research and critical thought that it meant a lot to him. Doug.
Awesome.
He says, so I was listening to your boy Rob the other week on Robbie's Out of the Blank podcast, and Robbie pulled up some random FBI doc, and he was reading part of it, and my ears perked up when he read how Marina hired an lawyer, to help her sell the backyard photo, and guess what the lawyer's name was? James Herbert Martin. This is what, the 9th Martin now associated with the assassination now, Rob? Anyway, this Mr. James Herbert Martin was such a nice guy. He invited Marina and her 2 kids to live with him and his wife, Mrs. Martin, along with Mr. and Mrs. Martin's 3 young kids in their 1-story house in Dallas. Mrs. Martin must have been a hell of a nice lady to invite a traitor commie's wife and her 2 infant kids to come live with her family in that already cramped house. Marina stayed with her agent, James Martin, and allegedly fucked him for about 2.5 months in December of 63 to February of 64.
Huh? What?
Did I just... what?
Huh? What?
In that time, he secured $132,000 in advances to tell her story, including from, wait for it, Life magazine, along with other deals in Germany and London. This James Martin sure had some international connections, considering before he was working at some Six Flags Motel Inn in Dallas. During that time, Marina also received $68,000 in contributions from sympathetic U.S. citizens. This Mr. James Herbert Martin was also the guy who confirmed to the Warren Commission about Oswald's plan to assassinate President Nixon after the Walker incident, but thankfully Marina locked him in the bathroom all day so he couldn't do it. Once Rankin started asking how it's even possible to lock someone in a bathroom, which locks from the inside, when the bathroom door swings open to the inside. A commission member shortly after asked to go off the record. There are so many good tidbits of info in James Martin's WC testimony. I recommend anyone who wants to learn some context on Marina and her after-assassination activity to read Martin's whole Warren Commission testimony. Now, I'll admit I haven't had time to completely look into this James Herbert Martin character more because I've been traveling, but it strains credulity that the Secret Service would just let Marina leave their custody and go wherever she wanted 2 weeks after Kennedy was killed. My working theory is this Martin was just another handler, probably CIA, who the Secret Service handed Marina off to. I will look into this more and have more updates on this James Herbert Martin in time for the next quick hit. Thanks as always, guys, and I can't wait to listen to your thoughts as I travel throughout Italy. Best, Joe Borelli.
Joe, my first thought is I wouldn't think CIA. Secret Service had her locked up. As a matter of fact, if you read her, there's a part in her testimony her grand jury testimony to the Garrison grand jury, the Clay Shaw grand jury, where she talks about how the Secret Service tells her not to trust Ruth Paine because Ruth Paine has connections to CIA. And I think that that wing, the Secret Service FBI wing, pretty well sequestered Marina from the CIA in the aftermath of the assassination.
This Martin guy, definitely dubious for sure.
Dubious for sure, but probably not CIA. maybe a handler from somewhere else, like military intelligence, because we know they were, that we could do a whole nother show on that. But
yeah, or the FBI. I mean, not necessarily FBI proper, but an FBI handler, something like that nature, because The FBI was worried about Marina being a spy. And once the Secret Service, they couldn't keep her locked up forever. They did for 2 weeks, but you can't keep her locked up forever. So when you do hand her off to somebody, the Paines are already out of the question. You can't send her back there. She's got to go somewhere else. So you set her up with this guy who's a lawyer, and be able to watch her and keep an eye on her and stuff. And handle all of her financial obligations and contributions and sell her story and this, that, and the other.
Now, I do agree
and
with Joe.
Allegedly have sex with her.
Dang it, Rob. Now, I do agree with Joe that soon after the assassination, you're not just going to turn her loose and not have her being handled 100%. Yeah, but probably not CIA. No.
No. Agreed. But, yeah, that's it for this week. So, folks, if you'd like to have your emails read here and commented on live by fine folks like Bart Kamp from Diddley Plaza UK or Doug or myself, feel free to send your emails to quickhitsjfk@gmail.com, and we will read them live on the air.
Right here. We will. Well, guys, we're about to run out of time. We better get the hell out of here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's been good fun.
Time to ski-daddle. My one bar is about ready to break.
Hey, Bart, thank you so much. I know that was impromptu. I don't know if I mentioned on this episode, but literally 5 minutes before me and Rob are going to record, I'm texting with Bart, and I'm like, dude, come on with us. And he's like, fucking A, sure. And then this happened.
So
and
it was my whole mind.
Dude, what a magic episode.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you. Rob,
thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem. And you need to do it again. And like I said, dude, any fucking time, you drop right in, right?
Sure.
All right. Rob, there's the music. Get us started, my friend.
All right. For all things The Lone Gunman Podcast, feel free to follow along on Twitter at The Lone Gunman 7, the Facebook page, The Lone Gunman Podcast. Just search for it. You'll find it. And the YouTube channel, The Lone Gunman Podcast. Go subscribe. God damn it. I only need like 150 more people to subscribe before I can monetize the fucking channel. That'd be great. 8 years to get 1,000 fucking subscribers. Let's go. That's it. That's my rant for the day.
And you can find my show, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, at Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Safari, Deezer, and on and on and on. Like this show, everywhere you find quality podcasts and like quick hits, it is another fine podcast from Drop D Podcast Productions from the heart of Music Row, Music City, USA. So, for Rob Clark and Bart Kamp, this is Doug Campbell saying tune in again next time when, upon being asked what sort of people he imagines would listen to this podcast on a regular basis, we'll hear Lynn Osanik say,
Marlboro sucking, 2 a.m. Walmart shopping, leather-skinned meth addicts.
Well, damn. Okay, then. We are out.
Wow. That's our people. Peace.
Bye.
Bitches, I can hear you now, you fuckers.
What? What the fuck are you doing over there, Rob?
I don't know, dude. My internet here at work is without. I'm on some shit ass Wi-Fi that might go at any time.